All right. Hello, friends, and welcome to a new series on my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kit. I am non-binary, so I use they, them pronouns. And this is the in-between. So, a little bit of a backstory on this game. I don't know too much about it because I didn't want to spoil myself or anything, but the in-between is published by one of my favorite game publishers, 2.5 Studios. And so I thought, obviously, if I like a lot of their games, I'm probably going to like this as well, since they're publishing it. They're the ones who put it out into the world. From what I know of the game, the main character's name is Micah, I think. There's this inn, which is like between worlds or something. I have no idea. I'm just excited to get into it. So let's hop in and let's see what this is. Start.
Dearest Micah.
Okay.
Do you believe in ghosts?
No.
In spirits? In demons?
No.
I do.
Okay.
There's a world right on the edge of your consciousness. But not everyone can see it. Those of us with the sight have a duty to protect, to maintain. I deeply apologize for what I must do.
Okay,
My
yikes.
son,
Oh, okay. Father?
I love you.
Thank you.
Edwin Riley.
That was a letter.
P.S. Happy birthday, Micah. How I wish I could be spending it with you.
Okay. This is interesting. I wasn't expecting animation. In a world away from ghosts, from demons and spirits, was a young man named Micah Riley. At 24 years old, he just recently graduated from the Dynasty Institute, a highly competitive and prestigious university with a diploma in business. Okay. It wasn't his first choice, possibly not even his second, but his uncle was the dean of the business school and his aunt was one of the lecturers, so what was expected of him? However, he was able to take some summer classes in art, on the condition that he could also hold down a part-time job. Okay. He chose a local cafe, cozy, but chic. He instantly fell in love with the place. He used to visit this place almost every day when he started university. The atmosphere helped him think. Mary ran the business side of things, but was also a skilled barista, teaching him how to do latte art, which he got pretty damn good at, thank you very much. Chef Thomas taught him how to cook and prepare the menu items. He was also the one who encouraged him to enroll in the art course, both he and Mary enthusiastically offering to hire him. A husband and wife duo, and incredible people. Today, though, he had been given the day off, a rare occurrence for the ever-conscientious Micah. University was finally done, and his roommate, Leonardo Addy, was moving out of the apartment they rented together, okay? The building was nothing special, just a regular apartment you could find anywhere. What made it so appealing was the rent discount that a student could get on the place, thanks to the university. Otherwise, Micah was sure they would have ended up in a shoebox of an apartment. Leon, as Micah called him, was moving to work with his father across town. It wasn't far from the apartment by any means, but this building didn't have parking, and as he was starting a new venture in real estate, he needed somewhere he could keep the car. So he was reluctantly moving. Still, he threatened time and time again that he would visit as much as humanly possible. Micah and Leon had known each other since they were kids in kindergarten, but it wasn't until they coincidentally ended up living together that they actually became friends. They attended the same school throughout the years but were in different classes. They knew each other's faces, but not really who they were. You know how it goes. Alright. A box. Somehow, it was already moving day for Leon. The lounge room was slowly filling up with his boxes. Micah was still shocked by how much stuff one guy could accrue in 4 years. Serious shopping addiction. Leon, you ready yet? It'll be dark by the time you manage to tape these up. He was seriously procrastinating, as per usual. Alright, I'm going as fast as I can. Tisk tisk, moving on your best friend's birthday and taking your sweet time doing it. Typical. Today was November 15th, which just so happened to be Micah's 24th birthday. He wasn't actually upset about Leon moving today, of all days. Not really. It wasn't something he'd ever particularly celebrated, after all. He did, however, really enjoy tormenting Leon about it, who was, as it turns out, quite upset about the date. Micah tousled Leon's hair as he walked out with the final box. Surprisingly, he was going straight to work once the movers took all the boxes, so he was already dressed in his new suit. It was quite a sight, a young, suited man carrying out boxes that were definitely too heavy for him, while trying to pretend he wasn't on the verge of crying about the whole situation. The redhead watched his friend with interest. He'd never seen Leon so dressed up. His usual style was far more casual, oversized jumpers and comfortable pants. That suit really didn't suit him. Micah smiled to himself. He had to admit, it did look good on him, despite it not being his usual style. He could just imagine the little old ladies pinching his cheeks as he gave them tours of their retirement homes. I didn't pick today. You know how sorry I am. I want to stay for the day so badly and celebrate with you, but my old man was determined that it had to be today I started. He looked so sad that Micah actually felt a little bit bad for him. He didn't want him to go either, of course. They had fun living together, but it wasn't like they could just stop being friends because they didn't anymore. Alright, no need to cry. Seriously, you'll make me cry too. I'm not. He totally, undoubtedly was. They spent the rest of the morning sealing boxes and stacking them by the front door, ready for the movers. It was hard work, considering how many boxes he'd managed to fill. Oh, okay, they're even closed. Catch you later, man. Come by the cafe when you're free next. I wonder when that will be. Dad's got me booked solid for a month. Don't worry, there's no rush. Anyway, that sounds pretty rough. Good luck. Thanks. I think I'm gonna need it. Alright. Oh, we're putting the boxes out. The redhead sighed as the sulky brunette finally exited the building, no longer about to delay the inevitable. I didn't know how close we were going to zoom in, and it was getting like too long. I started really questioning it. He hoped Leon would be okay. As strange as it was going to be being alone in the apartment, his silver lining was getting out of celebrating his birthday that year, an occasion he was less than fond of. Disturbing his tired thoughts, a vibrating tone sounded from his pocket. He didn't even need to check who it was. We'll slowly pan. Oh! There's a button here it wants me to press. I'm sorry. This is interesting. Okay. Text. Leon is typing. Okay. Did I say happy birthday? Happy birthday. Yes, you said happy birthday already. That's cute that you can even like see him typing. Now get to work. Don't want to get fired on your first day. Alright. He's such an idiot. I want to see what else is in the phone. Oh, I'm not allowed to. That was my one chance to look at the phone. Leon was only slightly younger, but sometimes he acted like a lost kid. Any excuse to text or call and he'd take it. It was endearing, if not a little tiresome on occasion. Still, it made Micah smile as he locked his phone once more, slumping down on the couch. Moving was seriously exhausting, and it wasn't even him who moved. Maybe he'd take a nap. I guess he did. Maybe he would just close his eyes for a few minutes. It didn't matter how much sleep he got lately. It never seemed to be enough. A sudden roar of thunder and a flash through the sky woke Micah with a start. It was dark. The room was nearly pitch black. From the storm? Or had he slept all day? He rubbed his head. He'd been getting some killer headaches lately, and his sleeping pattern was all over the place. With a yawn, he lifted his phone to check the time as he reached over to turn on the lamp beside him, squinting as the sudden brightness hit his tired eyes. Oh man. He sighed. Slept the whole day. He'd catch up on the messages later, he decided. No! Micah rubbed his forehead again, trying to calm the headache. He had been having a dream. It seemed so real. But now he couldn't even remember what it was. It was right on the cusp of his mind, but out of reach. His fuzzy mind tried to recall how he'd ended up asleep on the couch, all while his phone continued to blip with notifications. Birthday wishes, reminders, emails, Leon updating on his new apartment. With a casual swipe, he erased the building alerts on his home screen. He'd catch up on the messages later, he decided. His eyes drifted over to the date in the corner of the screen. Happy birthday to me, I guess. His family didn't really celebrate birthdays, but he did have one tradition. Every birthday it would rain, without fail. He would sit by a window listening to his favorite music, The Sketch. He loved the rain. It was melancholic. One of his earliest memories was playing in the rain with someone? Who was that again? He frowned. He couldn't remember his face. He knew it was a young man playing with him, but he couldn't remember who he was. Interesting. He held onto his head tighter now, feeling his headache getting worse. It always got worse when he tried to remember his childhood. Okay. All he could remember was that smiling face through a deep haze. Sometimes it seemed so clear he could almost make out his features. Other times, nothing. Micah got off the couch with an effort unbecoming of one in his early 20s and wandered towards the balcony doors. Watching the rain outside made him feel calmer. He breathed out on the glass of the doors. He wrote a single word in the fog. A name. Edwin. Followed by another. Riley. The name, he was sure it belonged to his father. He was sure that's whose face he saw when he remembered playing in the rain. The name on the letter he kept hidden from his Aunt Caroline. She didn't like any mention of Micah's parents. It seemed like she wasn't very fond of them. Raised by his aunt and uncle, they were the only family he ever knew. They weren't bad people at all, but he never felt like they actually wanted him around. He did what he was told, studied what they wanted him to. He learned to never, ever ask about his family. He knew only that his father was his aunt's brother. The subject was banned early on when he came to live with them for some unknown reason. He couldn't remember much before then, just that he awoke in the hospital. His Aunt Caroline told him he would be living with her now. He would never see the wretched old man ever again. She wouldn't tell him who this wretched old man was, though, but somehow the thought of not seeing him made him sad, even if he didn't know why. I suppose I should get back to Leon before he starts to freak out. Take too long to respond and he'll convince himself something horrible happened. So little faith. The redhead smiled to himself. Sometimes Leon was so awkward and dorky, and other times he was like a mother hen worried over his injury-prone little chick. Not that he'd call himself injury-prone. He did find himself crippled with migraines a lot, though, so maybe he was in a way. He worries too much, honestly. Still, it's nice that he cares so much. The rest of the night was spent chatting to Leon before he finally dragged himself to his bedroom to sleep once again. Okay, good night. A groggy and sleep-deprived young man clung to his pillow as he begrudgingly awoke from his restless slumber. Groaning in protest, he negotiated with himself to remain beneath his warm sheets. Yet another night where he felt as if he barely slept behind him. His headaches and fatigue were getting worse. Right. Work. He was back at work today and glad for the distraction. While wasn't able to get that precious extra sleep, he wasn't too bothered. He wasn't much of a fan of having too much time to think, and if he stayed here, that's all he'd end up doing. Sooner or later, he'd have to face his aunt and the business career she wanted for him. He didn't know what he wanted to do really. He was happy for now at the cafe. The cafe was locally famous for its delicious food and creative latte art. One thing he in particular was known for was drawing cartoon cats and rabbits on kids' meals and sauce. It was definitely popular with the children. It could be kind of fun to run his own kitchen one day, he thought to himself. Maybe some kind of mythology-themed cat cafe hybrid, okay? Yeah, right. As he was thinking, he was dressing. He liked the uniform from Merriment Cafe too. Comfortable, but also pretty stylish. He glanced at the clock. Somehow, it was already time to get going. What did that poster say? How very dare you? Shit. His stomach rumbled as he forlornly gave up the idea of eating breakfast. He probably could make something simple, but he didn't quite feel like reenacting an anime girl and her toast running out the door. He always lamented his lack of a moisturized How about a motorized vehicle at times like this? But his trusty bike hadn't failed him yet. Quickly, he grabbed his uniform bag and headed for the door. It wasn't common among the Merriment staff to get changed there, but he'd much rather change once he got to work than risk getting his uniform dirty on the ride over. At least the ride would help him wake up. Okay. I was looking at that. Morning, boss. Oh, and a fabulous morning to you as well, Micah. I'm gonna head out back and change. I'll be right back. Sure thing. Oh, Micah, while you're out there, will you remind Thomas to check on that new blend, please? Micah waved back at her in acknowledgement. She's really cute. I like her. The morning was busy as usual, regulars and new visitors alike. Micah was a popular server, and he had customers who came in just to see him. Mary found it amusing, to say the least. She would regularly call him her poster boy. He found it incredibly embarrassing. He didn't do anything special, he just liked making art on food and seeing people's faces when they saw it. Hey man, can I get a double caramel latte, please? With extra sprinkles? Yeah. Hey, wait! Leon. Thought you were slammed for a whole month. You got a break soon? I had a lot to talk about. Yeah, I finish in a couple minutes, actually. Excellent timing as always. Yeah, right. Like you didn't already know that. Hey, what's that supposed to mean? That'll be $3.95, sir. Sir? Earth to Leon. You gonna pay for your sugar attack or just stand there like a space cadet? A deep blush covered Leon's face. Yeah, sorry. Grab a table and I'll bring it over to you when it's ready. Yeah, thanks. He paid for his drink and sat down at a table, as directed. He looked so awkward waiting, Micah couldn't help but wonder what was up with him. Was work that rough yesterday? Okay, break time. Hey, never mind. What? Leon? Are you okay? Yeah, don't worry about me. You sure? Nothing's up? Micah decided to switch gears. So, how did the job go yesterday? Huh? Oh, yeah. He perked up as he found something he could talk about. Dad assigned me to this weird old place on the outskirts. The outskirts? Didn't know anything was out there. Yeah, out near the haunted forest you love so much. Haunted forest? What? No, I don't. I'm just kidding. I know you're a big fraidy cat when it comes to ghosts. He sneezed at the word cat and pulled a disapproving face. That's what you get. So allergic to cats, even mentioning one makes him sneeze. What a sad existence. Seriously though, the old man is really fixated on this place. Why's that? That's the thing, I don't know. I went there to check it out, but it looks like an abandoned building on a lot of land. Nothing particularly special. Old buildings get sold all the time. He probably just thinks it's an easy sell for the newbie. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. They chatted some more until Micah's break is over. The words flow easily, just as they always had between them. As Leon stood to leave, he suddenly turned back to face Micah. By the way, shoot me a text when you knock off. I have some time tonight. We should grab dinner for your birthday since we couldn't yesterday. Here I thought I escaped the celebrations. Micah. All right, I'll text you. No need to make that face. Leon grinned in response and walked out of the cafe with a carefree wave. With yet another sigh, Micah shook his head and smiled to himself before getting back to work. The shift passed by quickly after that. A steady stream of customers kept Micah busy enough that time seemed to fly, just how he liked it. He glanced up at the clock. Knock-off time already. Why do we call it that? A moment later, he had changed back out of his uniform and prepared to leave. He dug his hand into his pocket, searching for his phone to text Leon, only to discover nothing was there. With a frown, he checked his other pocket. Not there either. Shit. Great. This is just great. Where could it have gone? He rushed back to the staff room and scanned over the area. Nothing. It was nowhere in sight. Then, somewhere in the cafe, could it have fallen out of his pocket? 10 minutes of searching later, he rubbed at his temples. It wasn't anywhere. Did he even have it with him this morning? Maybe he left it behind. His mind raced with possibilities. He rushed out of the cafe doors, calling out with a hasty goodbye to Mary, and grabbed his bike to quickly get home. He pedaled hard, desperately hoping he simply left it behind and didn't lose it on the ride in. Fast food, TP, cream, grocery store, clock, glasses, I didn't get the rest of them. Horns? Commercial center. Okay, anyway. It would be such a huge pain to have it lost for real. Even disregarding the cost of a new phone, he would have lost everything he kept on it. The ride home was stressful. Everything that could get in his way did. How come only when he was in a rush did people feel like suddenly appearing in front of his bike? A pervasive sense of doom and frustration built within the redhead as he raced up the stairs to his apartment. He didn't quite understand his own panic. It was just a phone, after all. He didn't really care about it beyond the inconvenience of its content. So why did he feel like such a pressing desperation to have it back in his hands? Finally back to his apartment, the redhead threw open the front door, making a beeline to his best guess, his bedroom. A few upturned items later, and sure enough, sitting on the end of his bed under his nightshirt was the unassuming item of his search. There you are. Relief flooded his body, save from replacing such an ingrained item. He should text Leon now that he had it back, but after the stress of getting home to find it, he was now too exhausted to want to do anything. A heavy tiredness washed over him, the adrenaline leaving his body, turning from energy to pure exhaustion, his muscles burning after the ride of his life. He flopped down on his bed and absent-mindedly scrolled through his notifications. Junk emails, social media nonsense, a million texts from Leon, and a missed call from an unknown number. Weird. Wonder who that was. Don't usually get many calls. Even more surprisingly, they left no message. He stared at the number for a moment before curiosity got the better of him, and he searched the number. A lawyer? Arthur Harris is a solicitor with 20 years of experience in legal counsel, estates, property law, and family court. Is it legal to own a panther? Is it hard to pass law school? Pace attorney, legal legend walkthrough. Bingus. Wait, I just noticed the name of the search engine. He screwed up his face, utterly confused. The feeling from earlier still niggled at his spine, the feeling of importance. Rubbing his eyes, he stared at the blurry little screen. He could see the name perfectly well, but the rest of the search results had a strange glitch to them. Is it legal to own a pan? Annoying. Something wrong with the page? I wonder what that's about. He shook his head, deciding that whoever it actually was couldn't actually be that interesting. Maybe they got the wrong number. What would a lawyer want with me? He looked at the page for a while longer, trying to decide what to do. He knew logically, but his curiosity and intuition screamed something else entirely. Should he call him back? They didn't leave a message, though, so maybe it was a wrong number after all. He scrolled through the rest of his missed notifications, skim reading through all of Leon's messages. To make his 37 messages stream of text short, it seemed as if he spent some more time dealing with that rural property since he left the cafe. His dad really wanted it by the sound of it. Finally, he was all caught up. He felt bad. He promised Leon he would text him back as soon as his shift ended, but that became a little difficult to do without his phone. Micah was still thinking about the missed call too, absent-mindedly scrolling through nothing as he stared aimlessly at his device. All Leon? Micah quickly opened his contacts list, scrolling down the endless list of names to find Leon. Not. He actually didn't have that many people on there. His aunt, uncle, the cafe, Leon, and a few others he was friendly enough with but never actually texted. He stopped at Leon's name. He did promise to let him know when he was finished work. It was just a little later than expected. Still, he'd kept his promise. Just as Micah went to hit the call button, his phone started to buzz. He jumped up in surprise, nearly dropping his phone. Barely catching it, he caught the sight of the caller ID. It was that same number, I had a feeling. And this time he was available to answer it. He rushed to his desk where he kept his notebook, just in case. Answer? Hello? I should have declined just to be funny. Good evening, Mr. Malcolm Riley, I presume. Malcolm? Right family name, but who was Malcolm? May I ask who's calling? Forgive me, where are my manners? Arthur Harris, administrator to the estate of the late Gregory Riley. I'm calling about the last will and testament in regards to the unresolved inheritance to one M. Riley. Gregory Riley. He had heard that name before, but where? Micah had yet to respond, but the man continued talking. You're a hard man to find, Sorry. I seem to recall you preferring to be known by your middle name, Edwin. Is that still accurate? Oh! Forgive me, it's been many years since I last saw you or your father. You or your father. Those words pounded in his head like a drum. Who was this person? He said Edwin. Edwin Riley was the name of his father. He was sure of that. He swallowed hard. His whole body felt heavy, like it was suddenly constructed of lead. All of his attention was directed to that voice he could hear through his phone. You or your father. Edwin, are you there? I'm not Edwin. Edwin is my father, but he's been gone for years. Wait. For some reason, he decided against telling him that. Maybe I could find out more from this man if I pretend he's still here, but just not available. He swallowed again. It was almost painful how anxious he was. He's not available at the moment. May I help you with something? Edwin's son. You must be little Michaela, then. Wow, what a name. Has it really been that long? Michaela! It was technically his full name, but no one called him that ever. And even his aunt, who was a stickler for proper language and names. In fact, he didn't have any recollection of anyone calling him by that name. How did this man know it? Do you know my father, then? I do indeed. I haven't heard from him since your grandfather passed, however. I've been trying to get in contact with him about the estate for quite some time. Of course, I finally find a lead, and it ends up being his son. Then, could you tell me more about the estate? I shouldn't, really. Micah struggled not to curse out of frustration. But since it's taken me so long to find your father, and you're technically an M. Riley, I see no harm. The redhead's breath caught in his chest. Thank you, sir. Such a polite young man. Gregory would be proud indeed. I have the afternoons free. Let's say we meet for a late lunch and go over the details I have to share with you. I would very much like to see how much my dear friend's grandson has grown after all these years. That sounds fine. We could meet at the Merriment Cafe if you've heard of it. Very well. Merriment it is. 2 p.m. tomorrow. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. With that, the call was over. Micah's heart raced. He had finally met someone who knew his father, and his grandfather, too. The redhead looked at the call log on his phone, convinced he was imagining the conversation he was just part of. He had to be. It was too surreal. And yet, there it was, right there, in his call log. Oh shit, Leon! He didn't know if he had the mental fortitude to take on socializing right now. He had so much to think about. His mind raced faster than his thoughts could keep up with. Finally, he had a lead. His hand drifted to the jacket pocket where he kept his most precious letter. Would he finally know who Edwin really was? His father and grandfather. For the first time ever, he was close to learning something. I should text him. Oh, time to hit the phone button again. Can I look at other things though, like gallery, clock, map, email? Because I can't do anything but text. That's so sad. Alright. Hey man. Sorry about this evening. I left my phone at home. And something came up. Sorry, I should have messaged you before. Oh, it's okay. Everything alright? Yeah, it's all good. Just family stuff. Nothing special. Oh, well, I guess I'll let you get back to it then. Yeah, thanks, man. I'll catch up with you later, okay? And it's telling me to leave. It was special, of course. Nothing about it wasn't special. He just didn't want to say anything before he knew for sure what it was about. He knew he could tell Leon. He wanted to tell him, in fact, but he needed to be sure. Knowing Leon, he'd drop everything he was doing and come running to his side to learn it with him. As precious as his friend was to him, he couldn't bear speaking about it too early, only for it to be nothing. The typing appeared and disappeared, appeared and disappeared. Leon seemed to have something to say, but in the end, he never said it. Interesting. Sleep did not come easy that night, and when it did, it was that same dream. The hazy figure smiling at him as they played in a puddle. This was a dream that plagued him. It burned at his mind, itched like a scene lost to time, desperate to be rekindled. Who are you? Why can't I remember you? Okay, good night. Oh. The cold night air hung heavy in the still dark room as the redhead awoke. No longer able to tolerate the shallow sleep of the night, he laid awake, staring at the ceiling. Agonizingly slowly, the day broke, and the room started to lighten, chasing away the last wisp of that haze-filled dream. As the sun rose, so did Micah's anxiety. The phone call from the previous day finally sinking in. He might find something out about his family today. Finally. It had been 17 years since he came to live with his aunt. 17 long years of not knowing. 17 years since waking up in that hospital bed with no memory of how he got there, what he'd been doing, or who he'd been with. Every time he tried to ask about his parents, his aunt would shut down the conversation or change the subject in some way. Whatever happened amongst their family, it was clearly something horrific to make her hate them so much. Not that he could ever figure out what. There was always a pain behind her voice, a combination of anger and deep sadness. Part of Micah didn't want to push her, after all, they were her family too. Another part deeply resented being kept so entirely in the dark. What was so bad he couldn't know? But today, she couldn't stop him asking. Pacing around the apartment was all he was capable of at that moment. It was all he could manage.
It's 8. It's 9. Ten. 11.
11 a.m. Enough was enough. There was only so much pacing one man could do. With his mind still filled with thoughts of that lawyer, Micah decided that he should just head to Merriment early. Anything was better than pacing back and forth any longer. He'd make up some excuse about wanting to watch Thomas in the kitchen or practice a new latte art. Something, anything would do. As he walked through the doors of the cafe, Micah desperately tried to calm his quickening heartbeat. If he spent some time messing about in here for a while, it would surely start going quickly, right? Micah recalled something about Thomas trying out a new menu item today, too. A worthy distraction. Eventually, thoughts of the meeting began to melt away as he watched Thomas cooking in the kitchen. Before long, he found himself sketching the meal at different stages of preparation. What he first thought would be a useless skill, his food drawings had become not only useful, but a feature of the cafe, featuring prominently on Mary's menus. Sometimes he even drew things for customers. A unique flair to the cafe. He checked his phone nervously. 1:25. Oh. Time went so slowly at first, but spending time in the cafe, drawing and chatting to Thomas, actually made time go much quicker than he expected. He took a deep breath. He felt much calmer, thankful for the distraction this had become. Why don't you get a table in the dining room? In the dining room? Someone's got to make sure these are actually edible. I don't think anything you can make would be inedible, but I'm not going to turn down the famous Thomas's cooking. With a smile, Micah took a seat at one of the empty tables, and Thomas brought out his newest experiments. They looked and smelled delicious. Stars in his eyes, the redhead's mouth watered just seeing the dishes being presented to him. All right, well, here's the table. Before him, Thomas placed 2 dishes. One wasn't really a dish so much as the most indulgent-looking milkshake Micah had ever seen. The redhead inspected the decadent beverage. By its color, it appeared to be coffee, or maybe chocolate? Topped with whipped cream, chocolate powder, tiny cookies, wafers, and the most impossible-looking cat chocolate. Last but not least, finished off with a long straw and a thin spoon, to which Micah's amusement also featured a cat ornament. The more he looked at the drink, the more impressed he became with his gravity-defying enormity. The second looked like a pie, the outer pastry woven into a lattice, once more adorned with cats, filled with berries and syrup. It smelled divine. The redhead grinned, seeing the effort taken to personalize the dishes with the cat decorations was just one of the many things that made Merriment an incredible place. It's like they know I like cats or something. Hidden beneath layers of pastry was a secret that made this more than just some pie. Micah stood transfixed, as Thomas was creating this masterpiece. This dessert had a layer of cheesecake inside the pie crust and under the berries. He couldn't wait to try it. Before he could dig in, however, Thomas brought out a third dish. 3? There's more? Where did this one come from? A special treat. A mischievous look spread across the chef's face. He gently placed the dish in front of Micah, a smile plastered to his face. Now you may eat. Dig in. Is it even possible I can eat all this? You better. You'd hurt my feelings otherwise. Micah examined the new meal with interest, trying to work out what secrets this one held. Pizza? Try it and find out. I recommend using a fork for this one. Interest well and truly piqued, Micah happily brought it to his lips and tasted it. And of course, he wasn't surprised. It was perfect, just as Thomas's cooking always was. This dish was particularly unusual, though. On first glance, this dish looked every bit a pizza. The plump pepperoni and intoxicating melting cheese hid a cheeky secret, however. The typical dough base one might expect from a pizza was conspicuously absent. I mean, we can tell visually. In its place, crispy and surprisingly delicate noodles. Okay. I didn't know what they were. I was like, are those like hash brown French fries, perhaps? Couldn't tell. Noodles, okay. A flavor and texture sensation that burst on the tongue. Incredible. He couldn't help but be a little envious. How amazing it would be to be in Thomas's position, coming up with all kinds of new recipes. Still, he was thankful for the meal, if not a little curious as to what he did to deserve it. As if seeing the question mark pop up on Micah's head as he stared at the spread in front of him, Thomas laughed. I know you don't really celebrate it, but I wouldn't be a very good chef if I didn't whip you up something special for your birthday. Ah, but more than anything, you looked a little down and anxious. You come here on your days off when you aren't feeling so good. Did he? He hadn't really thought about it. After a moment, he realized Thomas was right. It was how he got the job in the first place. What's on your mind, kid? I have a meeting here soon. I think I'm about to find out who my father is. Well, that's indeed cause for a delicious meal. It is delicious, isn't it? Micah scoffed in response, a smile playing on his lips. He had nothing to worry about. Thomas was one of the best chefs Micah had ever met. He trained in some upscale restaurants overseas until he married Mary, and they settled into their little cafe diner. They both loved it here, and Micah always thought what a lovely couple they made. They treated him like family. He would always be grateful for their support and kindness, even if he felt like he could never pay it back in full. Thomas still cooked incredibly fancy things sometimes, but he enjoyed comfort foods above all else. Of course it's delicious. You don't even need to ask. The food did make him feel better, too. Something about a stomach full of his cooking set his mind at ease. It was amazing how a good meal could serve as a distraction. He looked down at his phone. 2 o'clock. 2 p.m., finally. Once again, his nerves rose, despite his best effort to keep himself calm. Fine hairs on the back of the redhead's neck danced as the jingle of the bells above the door sounded through the cafe. A knot of anticipation formed in Micah's core as he turned to inspect the new arrival. He looked the part of lawyer, that was for sure. A tall, tan-skinned man with neat salt and pepper hair, his tailored charcoal suit perfectly pressed. The man walked with purpose, taking in his surroundings with reserved curiosity. His eyes traveled around the cafe. Micah gazed at him expectantly, standing to greet him. Although the man looked as if he matched the voice, he wondered if his assumption was correct. He almost seems as unsure as I am. Mr. Harris? Ah, you must be the young Mr. Riley. Yes, sir, that's me. He fumbled over his words a little, his nerves getting the best of him. My, how you've grown. You were just a wee tyke when I last saw you. I bet you don't remember me, do you? I don't blame you. You were very shy, hiding behind your grandfather's legs the whole time. He chuckled. One of those nostalgic and heartwarming chuckles, like he was reliving a treasured memory. Micah swallowed hard. Shall we sit? Here goes nothing. Can I ask what he was like? I lived with my Aunt Carolyn since I was young, and I don't have many memories of my grandfather. Or my father. He seemed to be deep in thought. Micah held his breath, wondering if he'd blown any chance of finding out anything. After what felt like an age, Arthur simply sighed, finally setting on his next words. He's being careful. Curious. That sounds like Caroline, that's for sure. She never did get along with her family. Stands to reason that she wouldn't speak of them much. How was it that you came to live with her? Honestly, I don't really remember it very well. When I was a child, I got into a bad accident of some kind, and when I woke up in the hospital a few weeks later, Aunt Caroline was there. She told me I'd be living with her from then on. I remember that. I've never seen Gregory more concerned about anything in my life. Arthur folded his hands and rested his chin, eyes closed in deep thought. A certain sadness settled into his strong shoulders, as if he were reliving something best forgotten. Was he there, or simply saw him after? Micah's heart drummed in his ears as he considered the possible meanings for the reaction before being brought back to the conversation with a comment so completely ordinary. Caroline. What was he like? My grandfather, if you don't mind me asking, that is. He was a good man, strong-willed and fierce, kind and compassionate. More than anything, he loved his family. They were the most important thing in the world to him. He was passionate and unstoppable. He looks nostalgic. He sounds nice. I just wish I remembered him. But he was an adventurous one. Caroline never really approved of her father and brother. Yeah, I kind of got that impression too. Although... Micah raised a brow, waiting for the man before him to continue. Arthur shook his head, declining to finish this thought. What was that about? But you said you had something for my father. Yes, how could I forget? Micah steeled himself. He wanted to know what it was, but was also afraid to know. Arthur unlatched his briefcase, and from it pulled a bound document, followed by a wax-sealed letter. I've had these in my possession for 5 years. I've been seeking out Edwin to pass them on to him, but as his son, I'm confident that Gregory would approve. 5 years? Does that mean... The man slid the documents towards Micah, who couldn't help but stare. His nerves tied in knots as he reached towards the envelope. With a shaky hand, Micah pulled them towards himself. Pulling the document from its enclosure, he scanned the thin paper within. Before him, an immaculate scripted title. Old, but well cared for. This property deed is made the 11th day of... I think that's October, with an A, on the year 1972, let's say, between someone, no idea what that is, of the city, and of the house of blurred out. That full-on says blurred out this, of this date at the location of a something blurred out address that will be unknown hereby belongs to Micah Riley. More text here to be blurred out, and some more text to go here that will be blurred. You didn't blur very well, guys. It looked like a property deed, by the way. The redhead squinted at the writing. It certainly looked like it was bequeathed to him, but what was it? What was the Magnus Inn? Oh, is that what it says? Somewhere? I don't know, some kind of tavern? A violent pulse roared through his head as his eyes scanned the deed, his fingers lightly touching the paper. What was that? Shitty time to get a migraine. He wasn't about to let a headache get in his way, not now. Shaking his head, he turned his attention to the letter accompanying the deed. His eyes scanned the deed before moving to the letter. Is that not what we just said? He turned his attention to the letter. Let me look at the deed again. Now let me look at the letter. Addressed to one M. Riley. He took a deep breath and opened it, barely managing to stop his shaking hands. My dearest Micah. His heart jolted. Micah? It was addressed to him. His eyes went wide as he looked at the lawyer and the paper in his hand. At least he had thought he was, for where the gray-haired sat only a moment ago was now empty space. Oh. He was gone. Where? Where could he have disappeared to that quickly? Panic flared up in Micah as his eyes darted from the letter back to the empty spot in front of him. He shot to his feet, eyes dashing around the room. Continue reading the letter, sick freak! Where once sat a man, now nothing greeted him save for an empty seat. Arthur Harris was nowhere to be seen. How could someone just vanish? Thomas gave him a quizzical look from the doorway to the kitchen, crossing his arms over his chest. Did you happen to see where he went? He was here a second ago. Did he leave while I was reading? The tension in Micah's body was making him lightheaded. See who? Mr. Harris, he was just here. Micah pointed to the seat opposite him in the booth, now abandoned. Thomas's brow wrinkled in worry as he watched the panic blossom in his employee's face. Sorry, Mai, I didn't see anyone. It looked like you were alone this whole time. I thought you might have been in a phone call. The blood in Micah's body seemed to become ice cold and freeze. Alone. Alone? How? How could I have possibly been alone? He looked back at the table, the documents neatly laid where he left them, lonely in their isolation. They didn't vanish, they weren't a part of his imagination. Those are real. How could the man who gave them to him not be? There must be some kind of mistake. You feeling alright? You look like you've seen a ghost. Ghost. That was the last thing Micah heard as all his senses went black. Oh, okay. And I think that is where we are going to end this video for now. I'm hesitant about this game as a whole. There's a lot that I'm not too crazy about, trying to be nice saying it, but a lot here that I'm kind of like, okay. This is a demo version of the In-Between. The full game is not out yet and does not have a release date, but there was quite a bit of writing errors, whether like grammatical writing errors or just like the writing in this just wasn't amazing to me. It was kind of weak. There were some things in the background that I wasn't particularly a fan of, especially that AI Harry Potter poster that's in Micah's room. Why? To both aspects of that. Why? As of right now, with this first hour of this demo, and there's still a little bit more demo to go, I think, I'm not wowed by it. I'm not all that into it. But that is going to be it for this video. Thank you for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it in general, and I will see you in the future for some more games on my channel.